All right. Well, it is 12:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for being here today. We are thrilled for you spending your Friday lunch hour with us, and thank you for your interest in ensuring the Tahoe Truckee's community is really resilient in the face of wildfire. So if you haven't already, we'd love to introduce yourself in the chat with just your name and one thing that you're hoping to learn or discuss today so we can get an idea of what's on your mind. And while folks are doing that, I can start off with introductions. My name is Maeve Donovan. I'm the director of the Impact Portfolio at the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Ashley Beck, who is our Strategic Advisor, Engagement, and Communications Director. And if any members of the media are joining us today, we kindly ask that you identify yourself in the chat as well. And today's session will be recorded in both English and in Spanish. We'll share the recording out with all of you afterwards, and we will post to TTCF socials as well. So to jump in, TTCF's mission is to bring together trusted partners to align strategies, inspire philanthropy, and nurture a resilient community and environment. And we do that through a couple of ways, including TTCF's Lunch and Learns. And these Lunch and Learns are designed as a space for you to bring your lunch and your curiosity, and for us to bring community experts to address your questions and concerns around issues impacting Tahoe Truckee. And I'm pausing to allow Sandra to catch up in her translation. And the issue that always feels top of mind as we roll into summer is wildfire preparedness and what we can do to prevent, mitigate, and recover from these disasters. And I want to admit that this is an anxiety-producing topic, but this is not a conversation that is meant to inspire fear. Instead, this conversation is really focused on how we can build resilience ourselves and with our neighbors and within our community. And over the next hour, we're going to hear from two local experts. We have Anne Rarick from the Tahoe Truckee COAD, which stands for Community Organizations Active in Disasters. And she's going to talk to us today about what we should do before and during a wildfire. Then we'll also afterwards hear from Annie Barbour from United Policyholders, who works in the intersection of home insurance and disasters. And she's going to teach us about what we can do to maximize our home insurance policies and ensure we're as prepared as possible. And so before we jump into our topic today, we have a couple of quick housekeeping items. So to listen to this session in Spanish, please locate the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen that looks like a globe. From there, select the Spanish channel and then mute the original audio. And then at the top of your screen, you should see 3 tabs. To view the slides in English, click the tab that says View Slides in English. And to view the slides in Spanish, please click the tab that says Ver las diapositivas en español. Sandra, sorry for that butchering. All right, and thank you, Sandra, for interpreting for us today. Quick reminder to all of our speakers to please speak slowly and clearly and pause in between thoughts to allow Sandra time to finish translating. And then last but not least, please keep your microphone silent when we're not speaking and to minimize background noise. If you're able, we would love to see your shining face, so keep your camera on to make us feel welcome and connected. And then we will be holding a Q&A after the 2 presentations, so please feel free to post your questions in the chat at any time and know that they'll be answered at the end of our session. And lastly, please follow the rules from the Speak Your Piece campaign when engaging in this conversation. These were adopted by the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundations, and you can see these pillars to the right of your screen. So I'd love to start with a little bit of grounding in what TTCF's role is in this work. And so in 2021, TTCF got a grant from the League of California Community Foundations to develop a COAD blueprint. And what this did was outlined how community organizations integrate and support local government during all phases of a disaster, from mitigation to planning to response to recovery. This role was filled by Ann Rarick in that same year, and we got our first COAD in the Tahoe Truckee region. This is such an essential piece to disaster resilience. A COAD serves as the primary bridge between government incident command and our local service providers. So that ensures that emergency resources aren't only available, but they're effectively funneled through our trusted community messengers into our highest need brackets. And so TTCF continues to work really closely with the Tahoe Truckee COAD, including serving on their COAD advisory board, coordinating disaster response with partners in the community collaborative of Tahoe Truckee, and continuing to respond to disasters through our Evergreen Emergency Response Fund, which you can donate to right now on our website. And so the COAD really helps us connect with the people of Tahoe and Truckee. And I'm going to turn it over to Ashley to talk about how we help with the place of Tahoe and Truckee.
Thank you, Maeve. I'm Ashley for anyone who who didn't join us earlier at the outset with our introductions. We just wanted to share a little bit about the blend of how our mission serves the people and places of Tahoe Truckee, and supporting the COAD and wildfire preparedness is exactly the center of that Venn diagram. Can you go to the next slide, please? In 2021, TTCF launched our Forest Futures campaign with a strategy to hit on three areas. So protect our communities, steward our forests, and build a forest economy. In COAD, supporting COAD and wildfire preparedness is between protect our communities through this type of event, other educational opportunities, supporting wildfire mitigation efforts, whether this is large scale properties or even helping with defensible space education, and also stewarding our forests. And so to date, we have invested $8.7 million across more than 74 projects and have positively impacted 140,000 acres or more.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. With that, I'm thrilled to introduce Ann Rarick, the manager of the Tahoe Truckee COAD, who is going to talk to us about that preparedness and response. Take it away, Ann.
Awesome. Thanks, Maeve, and thanks TTCF for all the support throughout the years of this project. We got the next slide. Wanted to share, so the COAD, Community Organizations Active in Disaster, like Maeve mentioned, is a program of Connecting Point. Connecting Point is a public agency. We do a lot of different programs and services, historically started as supporting in-home supportive services for both Placer and Nevada County. But since then, we've been around maybe 20 years, evolved to have a myriad of programs, and one of them is the Tahoe Truckee COAD and disaster resiliency. And go to the next slide. And so Maeve touched on this a little bit. We really are that link between emergency services and our emergency operations center during a disaster. And then, our nonprofit service providers on the ground. And then also we work to meet the whole community. So, really working with populations that may have an access and functional need and advocating for their needs during and after disasters. Go to the next slide. And so just a couple other, the COAD works in all phases of disaster. So really working to train our community to be prepared. And then during response, working with those CBOs, identifying needs and matching resources. Also work through long-term recovery. The COAD here has been involved in a couple long-term recoveries, both for the river fire, which occurred down in western Nevada and Placer County, That photo on the right was from a rebuild, so we were really excited to be a part of that effort. And then in the last year or so, really working into that mitigation and space, kind of like Ashley mentioned. So we work with community-based organizations. That photo is a group called Team Rubicon, and they came and did some defensible space on private property. So we can go to the next slide. And today I'm really here to talk about that individual familial preparedness. So if there are three things I'd like for you all to take away from this conversation today, it's really these three on the screen. So signing up for emergency alerts, making a plan, and check on your neighbors. And we'll go into depth in a little bit of each of these. Can we go to the next slide? And so emergency alerts are really important to opt in and sign up for.
You have please come here, come here.
Due to the multi-jurisdictional um, nature of our region, there are a couple different alerting systems on that screen. So if you live and work in Placer County, what you'll want to sign up for is the Placer Alerts. And then if you live and work in Nevada County, we have a new alerting system that is used by the town of Truckee and Nevada County Alerts. So we're really encouraging everybody. This is replacing the old alerting system called Code Red. So we're encouraging everyone to take a look at the Nevada County Alerts, confirm that you're subscribed. There was a test that occurred yesterday. So if you are subscribed for those alerts, you should have gotten either a phone call or a text or an email, depending on how you signed up for those alerts. If you didn't get that test, I really encourage you to go to the Nevada County Alert page. You can also call 211 for assistance. So really important for those emergency alerts. And then Tahoe Alerts is an initiative that Office of Emergency Services worked on a couple years ago, where you can put on any address in the Tahoe Basin, and it also includes Truckee, and it will take you to the correct alerting system. So that you can just Google Tahoe Alerts or look at the QR code there. And again, really encouraging folks because of our multi-jurisdictional nature of our community to sign up for all alerts. You don't have to have, you could put, the Safeway address or town hall or something like that. Just due to the fact, even if you live in Kings Beach, it might be really helpful to know if there's a fire going on in somewhere like Truckee. So that's alerts. Another piece to information and getting the correct information during a wildfire, specifically if there is an evacuation. This is for Nevada County residents only. So the way that it's set up for Nevada County and the town of Truckee is if there is an evacuation, it will be evacuated by predetermined zones. So you can see on the map there on the right, the different zones that comprise Truckee, and that is through an app called Genesis Protect. And super helpful to know your zone, because if there is an evacuation and you receive that emergency alert text, kind of like the example on the left, it lists the different zones. So it says evacuation warnings have been issued in Truckee for these specific zones. Prepare now to leave. So really important that you also know your zone so you can interpret that emergency alert text. So, look up your zone, put it on your go bag, maybe have it on your phone too, in a couple different ways. You can go to the next slide. Another piece that is becoming more and more common is planned power outage events. The main takeaway from this is that we really want folks to make sure that your contact information is up to date in your customer account. So whether or not you're a Liberty customer or a Truckee Donner PUD customer, those events might be called something different. Liberty says public safety power shutoffs, and Truckee Donner PUD is going to use the terminology preemptive power shutoffs. They're going to be the same thing, but yeah, super important that your information is up to date in your utility account, however you get your electricity, because they will be notifying customers in the event that one of these planned power outage events are coming. You can go to the next slide. So we talked a lot about those emergency alerts, some other really important sources for information if there ever is a wildfire and maybe you can't get information on your phone or through the internet. 1015 Truckee Tahoe Radio is going to have up-to-date information as well, so you can always tune your radio to there to get information. Highly recommend for folks to download and play around in Watch Duty. Really helpful app for your phone that will kind of compile all of the information of the event. And you can kind of look where the shelters are. Is there a large animal shelter? Maybe there's a link to a community meeting. So really, really helpful resource there for folks. Also want to tag 211. We are an information resource and referral line. 211 for Tahoe Truckee is also run by Connecting Point. Available for resources 24/7, 365. But in the event of a disaster like a wildfire, we work with the Office of Emergency Services to staff up. So we can take those non-emergency disaster calls. So maybe it's not a 911 call, you just want information on the event. You can call 211 to get that information. So we talked a little bit about that emergency alerting. And then if we go to the next slide, there's some information about making a plan. So my plan may be different than Maeve's plan, may be different than my neighbor's plan. So it's really going to be individualized to you and your family, your pets, kind of whatever situation you may find yourself in. Super important to look at your routes, have a different evacuation routes, drive it in blue skies and maybe think about it with the lens of, if there's an emergency, where might I go? What's a plan B? Making sure your go bag is packed and ready to go with all the pertinent information. And then Annie will give some really good resources on that insurance piece. And then thinking about what you and your family might need, and then practice, especially if you have young kids. It may help to alleviate some of that anxiety that comes about during these events. And we go to the next slide. So this is another way of that you may be alerted when it's time to go during a disaster, during a wildfire evacuation specifically, if we're able to play it.
Are you able to hear the audio?
So really recommend, I don't know if the audio is working, but you can go on YouTube and watch this video maybe after this presentation. But this really shows those, if there is an immediate evacuation in your area, in your neighborhood, the sirens that you'll hear is kind of that European siren that goes wee wee. That's the high-low siren. So really important that you have that in your mind. If you do hear that, that means immediately it's time to get out. We can go to the next slide. And yeah, I just wanted to touch on the warning versus order. So an order means there's an immediate threat to life and property, and you need to get out now. A warning may be that the fire's coming and there's a little bit of time to move. Highly recommend if you do need a little more time, maybe you have a lot of pets you're going to have to gather. It's okay to leave during a warning is kind of the main takeaway from this. You can go to the next slide. And then super important, checking on your neighbors, who lives down the street, who might need extra help. When you look at some of these wildfire events, it's really neighbors helping neighbors. Do you have your neighbor's cell phone numbers? I know that was a big piece for me. Just kind of taking stock of what's going on and who maybe your neighbor down the street just had surgery and might need a little bit of extra support during an evacuation event. So a lot of the preparedness piece is going to start at that family level and that neighborhood level. So we know we really take care of each other in Tahoe Truckee. So this is going to be huge during wildfire event. And we can move to the next slide. Another big piece is those mitigation programs at your home, on your property, depending on where you're located and what fire district you live in. So maybe that's the Truckee Fire Protection District or the North Tahoe Fire Protection District. Each one may have different home hardening and defensible space assistance programs. Also, the CAL FIRE Defensible Space Resources has a ton of information on some of these, the graphic that you see, like how to clear for a zone 0 where you really want 0 combustibles in that first 5 feet from your structure. And there are some assistance programs out there. It's just going to depend on the fire protection district or county of your residence. So highly recommend to take a look on those websites. They have some really great programs to help everybody kind of work together as a community to make our neighborhoods more fire resistant and resilient. And with that, we can go to the next slide. Another call to action we want to share with the community is we are working to increase our folks that are trained and ready to be Red Cross shelter volunteers. So in the event of an evacuation and a shelter is stood up, the way it will work is whatever jurisdiction, whether or not that's Placer County or Nevada County or the town of Truckee, they will work with the Red Cross and the Red Cross will be running that shelter. So super important. If you know you're going to want to help during an event like this, you do need to be trained and kind of pre-vetted and be a Red Cross volunteer to be able to serve in that shelter. So there's some steps on this slide on how to get involved. And then we are putting on in partnership with the Red Cross, kind of a shelter training boot camp on Saturday, June 13th from 12 to 4 at the Truckee Airport. And we are asking folks to complete the volunteer registration prior to attending that training on the 13th. And then if you're unable to complete that training, but you still want to volunteer at the Red Cross, totally great. We'd love to have you just complete the Red Cross volunteer training. And a lot of those trainings you can also do online on your own time. So if you're unable to make that day, no problem. But yeah, we'd love to have more folks trained and ready to support during shelter. And with that, was going to take questions, but it sounds like we're going to hold till the end. Contact information is here. If anybody, maybe you have a group that would love some preparedness information or more information on the emergency alert system, please reach out and we'd be happy to connect. And thank you for having us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anne, for that great information. And all of this will be sent out, the slide decks that includes all of the QR codes, as well as a step-by-step registration guide of how folks can sign up to start that Red Cross certification process. Just to hammer that point a little bit more, we currently have no local volunteers who would be able to run an emergency shelter in the event of a wildfire. So really encourage folks on this call to sign up as well as share these opportunities. Thank you, Anne, so much for being here and sharing with us. We're now going to turn it over to Annie, who is the recovery coordinator from United Policyholders, to talk to us about insurance preparedness.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for showing up. Showing up is the majority of the work. So I like to use this time to basically educate you about your insurance policy and things to look out for and your best practices. Next. So UP is a nonprofit that's been around for 35 years, helping people navigate their insurance after disaster, doing preparedness events like this, and doing a whole lot of advocacy for you, the consumer. We're not for profit, we're not for sale, we don't take any money from insurance companies, and we survive on donations and grants only. We have a pretty good reputation out there, so we hold on to that. Next. Team Up is made up of professional staff. People are always a little bit shocked when they find out we only have 12 employees because we have a pretty broad stroke. Government and nonprofit partners, and a lot of volunteers that help us bridge the gap. And then we have a host of volunteer consumer-oriented professionals that we refer to, we try to get answers from when we don't have the answers. Next. So our three programs are Roadmap to Recovery, Roadmap to Preparedness, and Advocacy and Action. This workshop is intended to be general guidance only, not legal advice. We don't endorse or warrant any of the sponsors listed at up.help.org or speakers at our workshops. If you have a specific legal question, we recommend you consult an experienced attorney. That's our disclaimer. That's the last of the housekeeping. And now we'll get into the real topic. So we're going to start off with the homeowner's insurance, and I'm going to walk you through what you can charge to those different buckets. But first, I'm going to educate you about the 4 different types, because many people, we didn't used to have to educate about all these. And so it's been a bit of a challenge as people have gone in different directions, as non-admitted carriers have come more to the forefront, and as people have struggled with lender-placed policies. Next. We'll start with the admitted policy. They are part of the California Insolvency Guarantee Fund, so that if they were to go bankrupt, you're protected up to $500,000. You wouldn't be standing in line. And they're slightly regulated by the California Department of Insurance. And these are the ones you hear about all the time. The AAA, USAA, Farmers, those are the ones that are captured in this category. The safest ones. Next. Yeah. So the surplus line is important also. They're the non-admitted. They do not participate in the California Insolvency Guarantee Fund. And they are not regulated by the California Department of Insurance, which can be problematic. Lloyd's of London would be one you would know, Delos, some of the bamboo policies. So you really want to know which one you have, and you want to be checking on their financial security. And really, you can do that simply by Googling, what is the financial security of Lloyd's of London? They need to have, the standards that we suggest is a B+. And keep an eye on it. Next. California Fair Plan, probably a lot of you are familiar with this one. And I'm sorry about that, because it is a challenge financially. Out of the box, it is simply fire insurance, and you have to add all the other components of an admitted policy or a non-admitted policy to make it a whole policy. So you would get whatever your limits are on your dwelling with this policy, unless you add contents, fair rental value, code upgrades, debris removal. And we highly recommend that you see what those all cost and then pick and choose your way through. Some people, it's an easy deal. Others, what is most important to you, because this can get expensive. We recognize that. You also need a difference in condition policy to go along with your FAIR plan. It covers your water damage, theft, liability. These things are really important to have, and that would come from whoever is signing you up for the California Fair Plan, which you have to go through a normal quote unquote. You have to go through an agent of some sort or a broker. You can't just sign up yourself. This is called a wraparound policy also. The lender-placed policy, it's not our friend. We're finding that more and more people have this. And what it means is that your lender has sent you a letter saying that you didn't show proof of insurance. And so they are putting insurance on your mortgage. And at the bottom of it, it'll say something like, we highly recommend you find your own policy and it'll probably be cheaper and cover more. That's the tough part. If you're in this situation, more than likely you've been non-renewed and you don't know how to move forward, or you have been non-renewed and you've looked for insurance and you can't afford it. And you're just grateful that they're not calling in your mortgage. What you really need to know about this, though, is that it doesn't cover out-of-pocket living expenses, personal property, debris removal. You are left with a piece of dirt and your mortgage paid off. Some mortgage companies will actually put that into an escrow account to enable you to try to get more resources to actually rebuild. But it does leave you, considering the fact that 70% of survivors are underinsured after a disaster, this leaves you even farther in a hole. So this is kind of the nitty-gritty. And this policy that we have here, sample policy, is very, very much underinsured. But if you look at the dwelling A, they have $300,000. And then if you look on the right side in the smaller print with the blue arrow, keep going down, down, down. There you go. That shows that this policy has 150% replacement value. What's really important about that is that a lot of people think that that is 150%. The 100% is your dwelling coverage, 300,000, and you get an additional 50% on top of that. So this policy would have 450,000 to rebuild the structure, the home. And I want all of you guys to take a look at your policies, see if you have replacement value. Most of them do at this point. And divide it out by your square footage to see what you would have per square foot to rebuild. That's the way you can kind of grasp whether you're underinsured. In LA, we're looking at probably 450 to 500 minimum. Now, every disaster is different. You have to factor in a lot of different things. The availability of contractors, the magnitude of the loss. There's a lot of different factors, and so that can be really a challenge to figure out exactly what you think you would need. Other structures are anything that's not connected to your house. If you have a garage, shed, not attached fences, those are all covered under that. Your personal property is really basic. Take your house, turn it upside down and shake it. Everything that falls out is your personal property. There is an amazing coming up app that's being used in LA for contents. Right now it's just a website, but you can all check in on it, and it'll be an app soon where you can actually take pictures for what's going on right now for survivors. They can take pictures, upload them, and AI will capture what's in the picture and price it. As this evolves, he's making it so that you can take a video of one room, open all your drawers, cupboards, closets, upload it, go to the next one. Hopefully in 15 minutes, you can capture everything. And then it will put it into a Google Doc. So it's a great tool. It's farther on in the slides. So it's bevelmade.com. Your loss of use is huge. This is a bone of contention in every disaster. Your loss of use does not pay your mortgage. It pays for you the added expenses of being out of your home. So an increased rent because of supply and demand. It will pay mileage for you if you're 10 miles farther away from your everyday school, work, gym. It'll cover that. It'll cover if you have solar and where you're going doesn't have solar and your PG&E's $200 more a month. You can capture that. There's a lot of different components you can capture, and it depends on your insurance company. But basically, if you can show that that's an added expense for being out of your home, then that should be able to be captured. The issue is how much money do you have in that bucket? In a disaster that is not declared, you can utilize that bucket of money for up to 24 months. In a declared disaster, it increases it to up to 36 months. So whatever you have in that bucket, you need to divide by 36 and see if that would be enough for you to survive. Because quite frankly, paying rent and paying a mortgage at the same time is impossible. It just becomes way too much of a challenge for 99% of the people. At the bottom, we have building code upgrade. Nice job, Vanna. Thank you very much. And the building codes take your house from the year it was built to today's standard. The biggest thing you need to know about that is that the older your home, the more money you'll need in that bucket. And that if you do not have enough, it comes out of your pocket. It can't come out of the dwelling coverage. So I lost my house in 2017, rebuilt in 2018, 1,500 square feet, and it was $68,000 that was captured in that did not come out of my dwelling. So it's kind of an additional dwelling coverage. And now that would be closer to 100,000 because electric car hookups required, solar is required. And, in the big picture, you're going to want to review all of this with your insurance agent. This is to give you a place to start, the right questions to ask, and in a perfect world, hopefully bring you up to speed to make sure you're capturing what not only you can afford, but what you potentially will need. Next. This is another example. And, the biggest part about this really is simply that there are a lot of discounts out there if you bundle your insurance. And this just shows where you can get discounts for that. I also highly recommend that you raise your deductible, but have that conversation. What does that look like? Give me an estimate on $1,000 deductible, a $5,000 deductible, a $10,000 deductible. Make sure it works and it's beneficial to you. I have mine at 10,000. The amazing part is I don't have a problem getting insurance, but our insurance has gone up. And when I increased it from 2,500 to 10,000, I saved a third on my insurance. So have that conversation. Next. So replacement cost and actual cash value. This is important to know about just because it just puts more of a focus on having replacement value on your dwelling and on your personal contents, because they're going to give you the actual cash value, a depreciated amount if you do not have replacement cost. And an actual cash value will not get your home back. So you just want to check on that. The next slide, we have a very basic video picture to kind of show you, if you don't have replacement value, and if you do. So if you have replacement value and you send in your list of all the things you lost, and let's say they take your couch and they say that it's been depreciated to $300. Once they do that and you purchase a new couch, that's at $1,500, That's where that check for the extra 1,200 comes in. That's replacement value. All policies have endorsements and exclusions. These are some of the endorsements. If you don't have water, sewer backup, flood, generally, I think mine went up $10 by adding that. That's huge. If something gets stuck in the line, it gets to your house and sewer starts backing up into your home, that's a big deal. So some of these endorsements, the building code or ordinance of law, I have no idea why we have two names for the same coverage, but we do. Um, so just make sure you know what you have. If you're running your business out of your home, what kind of insurance do you need to add on for that to cover those components? And the next slide will show you some of the exclusions. And, these are pretty basic. Insurance does not cover the land. So if you have a landslide, if you have toxins like LA has in their dirt, that is not covered by insurance. And you can't really put that on, but you can, they'll have things like um, they'll have things like we're not going to cover, jewelry is going to have a limit. There's sub limits in the next slide, and jewelry would be one. Oh, guess not. Thank you. How about two forward? So there's sub limits in every contract, and that's what you have is you have a insurance policy that's a contract, and it can be cash, guns, jewelry, furs, which thankfully most people don't have anymore, but they'll have a limit. And what you need to look at is whether next to that it says anything about for theft, because some of them are only excluded in the case of theft, not fire. But if you have a lot of jewelry, if you have a lot of guns, you're going to want to put an endorsement on that, and so that you're covered. Next. IBHS standards, Anne touched on this a bit. These standards, for those of you that don't know what the IBHS is, that's an institute in South Carolina. Every boy's dream job. I don't care if they're 70 or they're 10. They build things to destroy them. So they have a huge warehouse, and they have been funded by the insurance industry to find out how these fires are spreading, to come up with standards, to be able to see how, a snow load hangs on a roof, what the point of what the point of failure is, all of those kind of things. And so they have come up with these standards, which the insurance industry has embraced. They're not feasible for everybody to do, but you really want to do as much as possible. A lot of companies may non-renew you if you don't comply with this. You don't have to find the most expensive vents. You can have someone in the community go out and get a whole roll of 1/8 inch screens and have a crew of guys go around and take off your old screening and put that on. You can collectively get together and clear brush from around people's houses. You will have people that can't help with some of this, but they can make cookies and they can make sandwiches. So as a group, I highly recommend you start on this project, because if you do get non-renewed because of this, most insurance companies for new policies are looking at these standards. I think we have one more where there's a complete list at wildfireprepared.org, but I know that in rural communities, that deck is a place to collect stuff. Get that stuff out from underneath your deck, please. Every rural community at all that I come to, that they have stuff under their decks. So whenever you're talking to your agent, your insurance broker, make sure you understand that you are recapping everything they say. because that's your paper trail and that is your only way of documenting. We learned very quickly in the Marshall Fire in Colorado, people were grossly underinsured. Many of them would come in front of us and say, I asked my agent if I was okay, and he said yes. Do you have any documentation? So when you ask if you have enough to cover a total loss, this is where you send an email back saying, I talked to so and so on this date, and these were my questions, and this is what I heard as the answers. If they don't respond to that, that stands. That can go right to the Department of Insurance, and you can be made whole. So you want a paper trail on every conversation you have with your agent. For some reason, I hid one slide that's not coming up here. So I'm just going to walk through it really, yeah, yep, that one. So I'm going to walk through it. These are just suggestions, best practices. I had my fire in 2017, and we just keep learning about really what's needed and what the challenges are when you get that call that you need to get out. I got out in 2.5 minutes at 2:20 in the morning. My neighbor got out in 4 minutes, and the back bumper of her car was melted. So that's what I base my suggestions on. How fast can you get out? You're not going to have time to figure out what you want to take at that point. I took my little dog. I managed to get dressed, thank God, her leash, my purse, and some money I had in a drawer. That's it. Moving forward, I have a photo album that was recreated for me that's next to the door. And I live with my boyfriend, and if he was having an exceptionally good day, I'd take him too. And that's a joke, folks. But make sure you have small bills. You don't have to have a ton of money, but make sure you have enough for gas and food, just in case the internet's down, the card readers are not working. That's huge. Watch duty is God. I know you guys all have your local alerts. If you have good internet, watch duty is pretty darn amazing. Please know your neighbors. They are your first responders. There is no time for anybody else to get in the time frame that you might have to get out. So know who needs help, who can help, and what some of those needs may be. Put a block box on your house. They're $25 at Amazon. Instead of trying to explain to someone that it's under the third rock from the right of the tree underneath the kitchen window, you can give them a 4-digit code. They can grab your key, get in, help get your animals out, help get you out. If you have children at home with earbuds, all of those things would be really important. And you don't have to, know all of your neighbors' phone numbers and know them. 5 numbers in an envelope in your glove box. This is really important, folks. We don't memorize phone numbers anymore. We need to be able to tell the people that are important that may come and try to save us, that we're safe. We need to be able to call our neighbors to help them get out. And we need an out of the area contact in case everything goes down. Know what you'll take. You don't get to take everything. It just doesn't work that way in most cases. But know what you will take, and if you're really worried about clothes, take your dirty clothes basket. Those are the clothes that you wear. Evacuate early and when told. Remember, it's not just about your convenience, it's about the people that are being evacuated behind you who now are getting into a traffic jam because you didn't go. And, the fire departments all have this coordinated about how long it'll take. Take one car. Leave the car at home that has full coverage insurance. It'll be covered. Take one car. In my fire, people got separated, couldn't get a hold of each other, were in panic mode because of it. Take one car. Know that you're next to who you need to be next to and that everybody is safe. Bevelmade.com for your contents list is amazing. And last but not least, Your insurance policy needs to have, if you have a trust and your home is in that trust, your insurance policy has to have the name of your trust on it also. That can be a sticking point, and will delay payment, and you'll have to get a lawyer. So it's just easy enough just to call your insurance company and say, my home's in a trust. What do I need to do? And hopefully I did not go too fast for the interpreter. This is my email. If you have any questions at all, feel free to send me an email. And thank you for listening today.
Well, I just wanted to end on a note of gratitude. You know, as Anne mentioned, when we're in Tahoe Truckee, this is a place where people take care of each other, and really appreciate you taking all of you this time to be here today, to be invested in our community resilience against wildfire, and hoping to take the message away around just trusting and caring for our neighbors and our communities. For all future events, including those suggestions that came in the chat today, please feel free to scan this QR code, sign up for our newsletter so you can receive information about our programming moving forward. Really grateful for all of you to join us today. And of course, please feel free to reach out to myself with any questions in the meantime. And expect a follow-up with all of the recording, the slide decks, and all of this additional information that we've talked about today to be shared by Monday. I'm going to be honest, I will not get it done this afternoon. All right. Well, thank you all for your time. We appreciate you joining us, and thanks for being with us.